Hey folks, Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics. Let me tilt the camera so you don't see my microwave on my stove. Hope you're having a lovely day. It is a little cloudy in New York City and even cloudier for Hillary Clinton, her campaign, her former campaign, and the Democratic National Committee, which has now been shown again to be liars and to have lied about their role in something related to the campaign. I'm going to report to you the Washington Post story, some other stories, and then give you my thoughts. My thoughts might surprise you a little bit, but I hope you'll stick with me. Again, it's this story right now is from the Washington Post, who broke the news last night that Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Convention, who seem to do quite a lot together, they seem to have done quite a lot in collaboration to either hurt Trump, screw Bernie, whatever. They paid for a lot of the research that eventually became the Trump Dossier. If you remember that BuzzFeed story from a few months ago, all these rumors about Trump with prostitutes in Russia and all these other things. So I'll read you the Washington Post first. The Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee helped fund research that resulted in a now famous dossier containing allegations about President Trump's connection to Russia and possible coordination between his campaign and the Kremlin, people familiar with the matter said. Mark Elias, a lawyer representing the Clinton campaign and the DNC, retained Fusion GPS, a Washington firm, to conduct the research. Press the share button. Let's get this to more people. After that, Fusion GPS hired dossier author Christopher Steele, a former British intelligence officer with ties to the FBI and the U.S. intelligence community, according to those people who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Elias and his law firm, Perkins Coie, retained the company in April 2016 on behalf of the Clinton campaign and the DNC. Before that agreement, Fusion GPS's research into Trump was funded by an unknown Republican client during the GOP primary. So, originally, Fusion GPS, their research into Trump, Russia, all that, was funded by a Republican client during the GOP primary. So, to be clear, there was funding from Republicans. I don't know the source. I don't know if it was the RNC. I don't know if it was a big Koch brother-like funder. But before the Clintons and the DNC were paying for Fusion GPS to research on Trump and Russia and all these things, a Republican client was paying them. The Clinton campaign and the DNC, through the law firm, continued to fund Fusion GPS's research through the end of October 2016, days before the election. Fusion GPS gave Steele's reports and other research documents to Elias. The people familiar with the matter said Elias was one of the top lawyers on the Clinton campaign, and boy, did they have an army of them. Army of lawyers. It is unclear how or how much of that information was shared with the campaign and the DNC, and who in those organizations was aware of the roles of Fusion GPS and Steele. Yeah, unclear how much of that information was shared between the Clinton campaign and the DNC. They were just both paying for it, and paying for basically opposition research on Trump, whether he was having anything sinister with the Russians or this and that, and then not talking to each other. Because we know Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Committee, they weren't exactly working together or anything to plant negative media stories on Bernie Sanders, to schedule debates at a time when nobody would watch them, and working together essentially to make Bernie Sanders look like a communist/socialist boogeyman that is unelectable. The dossier had become a lightning rod amid the intensifying investigations into the Trump campaign's possible connections to Russia. Some congressional Republican leaders have spent months trying to discredit Fusion GPS and Steele and tried to determine the identity of the Democrat or organization that paid for the dossier. A DNC spokesperson said, Chairman Tom Perez and the new leadership of the DNC were not involved in any decision-making regarding Fusion GPS, nor were they aware that Perkins Coie was working with the organization. But let's be clear, there's a serious federal investigation into Trump's campaign ties to Russia, and the American public deserve to know what happened. So basically, DNC saying, oh, well, Tom Perez wasn't in office when this is happening, so nothing to see here. Brian Fallon, a former spokesman for the Clinton campaign, said he wasn't aware of the hiring during the campaign. Quote, the first I learned of Christopher Steele, who was the author of the Trump Dossier, or saw any dossier, was after the election, Fallon said. But if I had gotten handed it last fall, I would have had no problem passing it along and urging reporters to look into it. Opposition research happens on every campaign, and here you had probably the most shadowy guy ever running for president, and the FBI certainly has seen fit to look into it. I probably would have volunteered to go to Europe myself and to try and verify it if it would have helped get more of this out there before the election, he said. So there's a lot of interesting things about this. Let me just tell you one thing that I find interesting. So basically, a letter was filed in court saying that Fusion GPS began working for the law firm Perkins Coie. The law firm Perkins Coie was Hillary Clinton's law firm. Mark Elias from Perkins Coie was Hillary Clinton's top campaign lawyer in April 2016. So wait a minute. April 2016. Bernie Sanders was still a candidate for the Democratic primary in April 2016. So you have Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC, who apparently both of them are saying, well, we didn't know that the law firm working Hillary Clinton's campaign, we didn't know that the law firm had hired this other research firm, Fusion GPS, to look into the Trump Russia stuff. We didn't know. Brian Fallon, the spokesperson, says, well, I only saw and heard about the dossier after the election. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But I think what's interesting, you have Hillary Clinton's campaign, the Democratic Party, DNC, paying to continue the research, apparently, of a Republican operative as early as April 2016, when Bernie was still a candidate. So you have more evidence of them basically working together when the DNC was supposed to be a neutral body working together, essentially, with the assumption and the desire that Hillary Clinton was going to be the Democratic nominee. That's what that shows. Now, I personally, it might bother some of you, I don't find it very scandalous that Hillary Clinton's campaign or the DNC was looking or paying for opposition research into Trump and possible connections with Russia or anything else. That's just politics. It's not Hillary Clinton's campaign does it. Bernie Sanders' campaign probably accumulated opposition research. Trump's campaign, all political campaigns, I mean, not all, because some of them don't have money to hire researchers, but all political campaigns definitely spend money on opposition research, whether it's about, did this guy do any shady business with Russia or anything else. So that part, not really scandalous. I'm not going to pretend to be outraged. It's just not a scandal. What is, to me, I don't want to say scandalous, but what is, to me, outrageous, first of all, the Clinton campaign, kind of a pattern, lied about this. Let me read you from The Hill. The New York Times senior White House correspondent Maggie Haberman and reporter Kenneth Vogel are slamming Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Committee, saying they lied about funding for the so-called Trump dossier. Quote, when I tried to report this story, Clinton campaign lawyers Mark Elias pushed back vigorously, saying you or your sources are wrong. Kenneth Vogel was a reporter for Politico during the campaign. Now he's at the New York Times. He tweeted, referring to Clinton campaign lawyer Mark Elias. The Washington Post, in a bombshell report late Tuesday, said that Elias's legal firm hired Fusion GPS, a private research firm based in Washington. So again, the fact that the Democratic Party, the DNC, or Hillary Clinton's campaign paid for opposition research in itself is not like outlandish. It's not scandalous. That's just politics. But don't pretend to be outraged oh, there's this Trump dossier and oh, Russian collusion and oh, all this stuff. When you literally paid for research that, for the most part, this Trump dossier, and I'm not defending Trump. He's probably done a lot of shady things in Russia and elsewhere. He's an awful president and an even worse person. But to this point, the majority of things in that dossier have not been proven or confirmed. And if you remember, BuzzFeed News, who printed a lot of the information about the dossier in January of this year, was widely criticized by other media outlets because they were basically just printing speculation and gossip about Trump with Russian prostitutes and all this stuff. Which again, I wouldn't find that hard to believe, but you can't just print gossip if you're a major newspaper or anybody, including me. So you have the Clinton campaign, who has planted in the media and been foaming at the mouth for over a year now about Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. To this point, the main thing that I have seen from my eyes that seems very questionable is Donald Trump Jr. Meeting with Russian lawyers or whatever that to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. To me, that's the closest thing I have seen to potentially collusion or working with high-level Russian operatives. But again, Trump's son was trying to get campaign dirt. But in terms of collusion, I've seen no evidence that the Trump campaign working with WikiLeaks worked together to release Hillary Clinton's emails. That, to me, would be collusion. But what this shows is a continued pattern of Hillary Clinton's campaign, the Democratic National Committee, people, pretty much Democratic operatives and Hillary Clinton lovers and allies, including Neera Tanden, Tom Watson, John Podesta, Jennifer Palmieri, Robbie Mook. I could go on. Lying. And then attacking progressive journalists or progressive activists or progressive people on Twitter for calling them out on their lies. So TYT needs Jordan. According to the main show, Jordan is ignorant. I've never heard them call me ignorant, but if they said that, I'm not. As I eat a berry. So, again, is there evidence that Trump has financial ties with Russia that might affect his decisions as president? I think there is evidence of that. His son even said years ago, some of the biggest deals in our portfolio are with Russia. But there's a difference between, is the president corrupt and have financial dealings with Russia that makes him corrupt and makes him not want to say anything bad about Vladimir Putin, and is there proof that he or his campaign directly worked with the Russian government to get and then disseminate Hillary Clinton's emails? So the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, they lied about being the ones that were paying for this dossier, which again, sorry to tell you, Hillbots watching, but they lied about it. They lied for a year. Again, I don't think it's scandalous that they did pay for it. I think it's scandalous that A, they're lying about it, and B, why is Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC, what do you think, they're independently of one another paying for a research firm to do opposition research on Donald Trump? Hell no. The DNC was paying for it to help Hillary Clinton's campaign in as early as April, when Bernie Sanders was still a candidate for the Democratic nomination. So it's more evidence of collusion or partnership between Hillary Clinton's campaign and the neutral Democratic National Committee. That same Democratic National Committee, who, as TYT is reporting, has basically been purging progressives out of leadership. That's their idea of unity. I'm not seeing much attention given to this in the corporate media, which doesn't surprise me because they like to protect Hillary Clinton. They like to protect the Democratic National Committee. Half of people in Hillary Clinton's orbit are with the Democratic National, half of the people on TV as pundits have either worked with Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, or are in that orbit. It's a very small, powerful orbit. But the bottom line is, Hillary Clinton's campaign, again, more evidence that they worked with the Democratic National Committee to essentially help Hillary Clinton once she was Democratic nominee. And why that's important, folks? Again, let me repeat, it's not a bad thing if the Democratic National Committee worked with Hillary Clinton after she was officially won the Democratic nomination. You would expect them to have worked with whomever was the Democratic nominee, and that includes opposition research. But when you are essentially paying, along with the Hillary Clinton campaign, for opposition research, while there's another Democratic nominee, you are not neutral. You are again tilting the playing field towards your desired candidate. And by the way, somebody said to me on Twitter, "Oh, well, they were just doing it with their eyes on the general election to hurt Trump." Yeah, you think the Democratic National Committee was paying for that research with potentially helping Bernie Sanders in mind? I got a bridge to sell you. No way, Jose. So that's the first story of the day. I will be doing a separate video because now it appears the Robert Mueller, who is the special prosecutor appointed by the Deputy Attorney General, is now looking into the Podesta law firm run by Tony Podesta, brother of John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, for possible unethical ties to Russia. So stay with me, TYT Politics. I'll be doing that video in a little bit. Thanks again.